It's amazing how social media, things like Facebook, Twitter, have really changed the way we communicate about events, especially elections. Here with me today is Cam Gordon from Twitter. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So we're in the heat of a federal election right now, and it's just amazing how we're getting a lot of the news bites from the different candidates, not only the main big ones, but also the local candidates. How are you seeing Twitter factoring into all of this?
Well, I mean, we're seeing Twitter factoring into it huge. I mean, you know, it's been 4 years since the last federal election. In those 4 years, I mean, Twitter and social media in general has really exploded too. So, perfect example, like the first debate, it was at the early August. You know, people are at the cottage, people aren't really paying attention. We saw over 220,000 tweets from Canadians on that night alone too. So to give you like an idea, middle of summer, that's really in the campaign too. Since then, I mean, there's been millions of tweets issued. And we're showing too, like we've actually done some research on Twitter, voters on Twitter overall. We're actually showing that 60% of people on Twitter are still undecided on the election. So in terms of, you know, a demographic that's gonna be really important for leaders to win over, I mean, you know, the numbers speak for themselves on that one.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, it's a very powerful demographic because they're very tied in. Have you seen how the candidates are campaigning change because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see it in a few ways too. Some of the candidates will be very conversational. You know, they'll answer questions on the platform. Others, such as, you know, our leader, Prime Minister Harper, I mean, he never really replies to anybody. One could argue maybe he doesn't have to. But you know, you have other ones as well where they're actually following a lot of people too. Others, they might only follow 50 or 100 people too. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can infer about how the candidates use their Twitter handle for better or for worse.
Well, it's interesting you know talked about Harper not replying to anyone, but is there a danger in communicating too much on social media and Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a few different dangers. I think just some people become a bit too saturated with your message if you're just hitting them over the head with it too much. We've seen a few occasions too where, you know, they might be using a tool like Hootsuite to set up their tweets in advance. Something happens in the news, a programmed tweet comes out that's incongruent with what's happening 5 minutes ago. So I mean, you have to watch out for that sort of thing as well. And like certainly as we've seen too, like we've seen a lot of candidates, you know, things they may have tweeted in the past have come out as well. And I mean, there's certainly been a lot of news on Twitter and elsewhere about that sort of thing.
Well, I think there's been a lot of social media bombs lately, and that's really kind of a lesson that I think a lot of people are looking at now. Your digital footprint, what you're tweeting or Facebooking or what have you, will be around for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear a lot these days about the right to be forgotten. I mean, not just with social media, but other things in the tech space as well. I mean, if nothing else, it shows the value of what your Twitter profile is in this day and age too. You know, a few errant tweets you made while you're in high school or when you're at a different job 4 or 5 years ago, that could effectively sink your candidacy too. So in terms of saying what the weight of your Twitter profile, I mean, that's like a really good example of just how important your social media presence is.
And it has sunk some of the candidates already.
It has, yeah. No, we've seen a few as well. But on the flip side, I mean, you've seen ones make great gains too. I mean, locally here, you know, kind of in the BC area, I mean, Elizabeth May, we saw her during the first debate. She actually gained the most Twitter followers of any candidate during the first debate as well. So it's been interesting. She's actually not invited to subsequent debates, but in that first one that she was in, of all the candidates, she gained the most followers as well. So really made a name for herself on Twitter on that night anyway.
Do you have any tips for the viewers out there on how to best follow the candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big hashtag we're seeing is ELXN42, 42nd general election. I mean, that's a really good starting point. I think following the federal candidates and then following your local candidates is always really good too, even just to compare and contrast, you know, what are the Liberals saying at a federal level versus a local level. I mean, I think following your local candidates is really key too, because it's the best place to get real-time information about your community as well. You know, it used to be the community newspaper or maybe like talk radio. Now it's, you know, it's to the second on Twitter. So I think that's a really good way to do it. And just keep, you know, I'd say keep your smartphone handy on debate nights. Or, you know, there's going to be kind of the women's issues discussions coming up as well. Certainly on election nights, just keep it handy because, I mean, you'll see kind of the tweets flying fast and furious on those nights.
Well, thanks for joining us, Cam Gordon from Twitter, and we look forward to following the rest of the election.
It should be interesting.